You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hey, Bears fans, wait until you hear what Hall of Famer Tim Brown has to say on the three Bears wide receivers who all are expected to be a number one. Stick around for that. I want to invite you to join us at Bet Rivers for the same game parlay. If you like wagering on college and pro football, pick two or more from within the same game, and when you hit, you can earn squares, and with those squares, you can cop bonus bets, profit boosts, and jackpots up to $10,000. That's the same game parlay only at Bet Rivers. It's not gone the way it is supposed to have gone for the Chicago Bears, and I want to talk about the growing pains of Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and that offense with Tim Brown, an NFL Hall of Famer, the Heisman Trophy winner out of Notre Dame. Tim, a pleasure to have you on. How's everything in your NFL world this year?
Hey, look, if the Raiders were doing better, I would be doing better, but unfortunately, I'm having to suffer through this. But hopefully some changes are ahead.
So always a Raider for forever, right? That's how you look at it.
I can't get away from it, man. Everywhere I go, people are asking me about it. So, even if I want to get away from it, I can't get away from it.
You had to grow up a Cowboys fan, though, right, in Dallas?
Without a doubt. I mean, I was just dying true, whatever you want to call it. I was that guy. I mean, I lived and died by what the Cowboys did every Sunday. So, I was a Cowboy fan until my second year in the league, until they fired Tom Landry. I was a fan up until then.
And you bailed at that point. It's interesting that so many of the teams, and you and I are not that far apart in age. I'm 5 years older than you are. We grow up with the Cowboys and the Raiders and the Bears, the Giants, and all of these teams are in free fall right now. Is the NFL impervious to destruction?
No, without a doubt. I mean, you never know from year to year who's going to be the hot team. When you look at the way San Francisco is struggling, nobody would ever thought that was going to be happening. But I think they're 5-5 at this particular point. So, Miami, everybody thought that they were going to be the hot team this year, and they're getting it back together, but they're struggling. So it's any team can fall apart. You lose a wrong player on the team, and that's going to be a problem.
What have you seen with Chicago that is troublesome to you?
Just growing pains, man. These are, bona fide growing pains. This is a team with a young quarterback, a couple young receivers, a couple veteran receivers, and they're trying to put this thing all together. I think when you look at the game that Caleb played last weekend, it was actually pretty effective. I mean, he didn't score any touchdowns, throw any touchdowns, but he didn't have any interceptions. 23 out of 31. That's a pretty solid day in the NFL, no doubt about that. So he looked more comfortable in the pocket. I thought the couple weeks prior he was looking for the rush and not looking downfield. Didn't seem like he was doing that as much. It's going to happen, man. I mean, how do you find a way to lose a game like that? Well, let's get a field goal block. Let's lose a game that way. Oh, well, no, let's get a Hail Mary completed on us that hadn't happened in the NFL in how many years, So when you have those kind of things happening, you just have to be resilient, man, and keep fighting and know that eventually it's going to flip for you.
Yeah, it's been one of those years for Chicago for sure. And Caleb Williams is already working with his second offensive coordinator. They fire Shane Waldron. Now Thomas Brown is in, and I don't know if he's going to be a serious candidate to get the job next year when they reset again, because that appears imminent. Can a young quarterback, Tim, be ruined by an unfortunate coaching experience?
Oh, without a doubt, man. Look, it's, I went through 7 head coaches, 15 offensive coordinators, I believe, in my career. And fortunately, I was able to, still do some things and put up some good enough numbers to get in the Hall of Fame. But we never won, right? We had a couple opportunities, real opportunities to win, and we never could finish the deal, And I just think that, sometimes, when you have all these coaching changes, and it's tough. It's tough for receivers. I can't imagine for a quarterback who's having to learn a different lingo. And I know they didn't change the language and all that. at this particular point. Now, I have to give this kid, I say kid because I know he's got to be younger than me, Thomas Brown, coach. I got to give him a little credit because this offense looked really fluent. It looked like they knew what they were trying to do, trying to accomplish, who they were trying to attack. And I think that's why they played a better offensive football game. But, yeah, man, it can be tough. You know, I was a receiver, but I can imagine a quarterback having to learn maybe not new ways, new plays, but learning how coaches call the plays, you know, and that could be problematic. And, it seems like he handled it pretty good the first week.
Caleb Williams and all of the guys talked about getting the plays into the huddle much more quickly and having more time to assess the defense when you get out there. When it comes to young receivers, when stardom is expected, as it was for Rome Odunze, and he's been okay, but he's also got to share the wealth with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and tight end Cole Kmet. But when it doesn't start the way it was expected to, what advice do you give a young receiver, Tim?
You know, look, man, the name of the game is to win championships, right? And you got guys around you who can help you do that. I know this team is not heading in that direction at this particular point, but they will be. They'll get this thing together. And I think that's how, you have to look at it as a team sport. When I got to the Raiders, I had James Lofton, Willie Gault, Murray Fernandez, Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, Todd Christensen. You know what I mean? So, I didn't go there thinking that I was going to be a Hall of Famer. I went there thinking I was going to help this team win a championship. And that was my goal, and things turned out differently. Sometimes I wish I would have won a championship over a Hall of Fame. I mean, that's how special I believe a team championship is. So, look, it's a very, very difficult thing. But at the same time, you got to try to make it happen some kind of way.
Did Todd Christensen carry a thesaurus around with him everywhere he went to show off his vocabulary? I love Todd. He was something, man.
He was a great guy, man. I loved him, no doubt about it. And we called him the thief because he always knew where the ball was. In some kind of way, he found a way to get in your route and get that ball thrown to him every time.
Tim, I want to ask you about, the weight for you in your career. If I remember right, 36 when you finally get to the Super Bowl and what it must have been like to wake up that morning after 13, 14, 15 years and it's like, it's here. And then for everything that happens during the game, what do you recall most about your Super Bowl experience and how painful it was to wait that long to get it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I waited 15 years to get there, but once I got there, I didn't think about the wait any longer. Right? It was here in front of me now, and let's go try and make the best of this opportunity. But I think what I recall the most was it was really in the AFC Championship game when at the end of that game when I knew we were going to win the game. And that realization came over me that I was going to get a chance to play in my first Super Bowl. And we're in the huddle, and I'm over there crying. And Rich Gannon said, "Who's crying?" Time out. So they kicked me off the field, and I run off the field and bury my head in a towel. But I had played a lot of football up until that point, high school, junior high school, college, and never had an opportunity to play for the big one, and finally I was getting that opportunity.
Did the Buccaneers give Mark Trestman a game ball?
Well, look, we knew that was going to be a tough one for us because they knew we were running the same offense, right? I can remember one time Rich Gannon said, black, 15 lightning. And the whole defensive line stood up and said, "It's coming right here." So we didn't have a chance if we had to audible, and that was their whole deal is to make us audible because if we audible, they were going to know what the play. They were going to know what the play was. So it was a tough situation, man. And the last time there was no break in between the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game. We needed that extra week because I think it would have helped us with planning and maybe coming up with something a little different.
How shocking was it for you guys on the day of when you're missing your center? I mean, that couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, it is a tough situation. I mean, all that had started on Friday, and we knew that it was going to be, a tough situation with Barrett. And so, the really hard part about that is, he could have played in the game, and Callahan chose to keep him out the game. And that, I think that's the part that hurts everybody more than anything is, yeah, whatever he had done. But this is an all-pro center going up against one of the best defenses in the history of the league. We need him, and no qualms, no bad talk to about Adam True and everything he tried to do. But we needed Barrett at that point, and we didn't have him. And when you don't have your guy, it affects you in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm. I got a real good answer a few years ago when Michael Irvin stopped by our studio downtown to talk with us for a good hour about the Cowboys of his era and the nature of the position of wide receiver. And I want to see what you have to say about this. Why is it so often receivers are so easily viewed as selfish and temperamental? Because it's more inherent, Tim, as you know, to that position than any on the field in your game.
Yeah, well, we're the only guys out there who are, trying not to. Our job is not to get hit, not to touch anybody. You know what I mean? So, it's a totally different thing when you know that you're going to be up in the middle of that line of scrimmage. You have a tendency not to talk as much trash, not to say crazy things. But when you're out there, with your long socks on, with your long towel hanging, with your wristbands up your arm, looking pretty, trying not to touch anybody during the course of a game, you feel free to say things and to, make comments to people. So, I've always looked at it that way, man. It's because we have a easier game than anybody else on the field. You know what I mean? We're the only ones literally trying not to get touched out there. And, it makes it a lot easier to – Michael should know. I mean, he was a king of that. You know what I mean? But, and obviously we had a whole bunch of guys during my time who were very good at it. Chris Carter, those guys were, Andre Rison, I mean, the list goes on and on, But, hey, I return punts and kicks. So for me, I always thought, hey, I need to keep my mouth shut because I'm going to have some maniac running down the field trying to take my head off.
Should a great wide receiver or a great corner still be asked to return punts and kicks if he's good at it?
Absolutely, but it'll never happen, It'll never happen again, I mean, it's hard to see receivers coming out of high school now want to return punts in college. It just doesn't happen anymore. And I think they're missing out on, exposure, getting, better exposure. I only won the Heisman because I was a punt return and kick return, not because of what we did in the passing game. So I think from that standpoint, it's a really, really tough deal. But at the same time, it would be nice to see these guys go back to returning punts. It would be great to see.
Yeah, it's more chances to get the ball in your hands, I mean,
to affect the game and in many different ways, So I'm actually dealing with a young kid now who is a great athlete, 10-7, 100-meter guy, and he returned punts and kicks. And he's already talking about, well, I don't know if, you need to do that in college. You need to be tough enough to go and handle it, brother. You can handle it. Just go get it done,
Who do you enjoy watching play receiver today?
The game is so different, man. And, the way I played the game, bumping into linebackers and safeties most of the time, I think 85% of my catches came in between the hash mark. I do like Jamar. I love his game out there in Cincinnati. He's a catch and run type guy. And I love seeing that, instead of guys just catching the ball and run and falling down, I think he does an incredible job with running after the catch. So I think right now he'll probably be number one on my list.
Okay, I got this little nugget for you on your way out the door. Since you didn't say Roma Dunze or anybody who wears the Bears uniform, you had almost 15,000 career receiving yards in your career. The Chicago Bears career receiving record is the smallest of all 32 teams. Johnny Morris, who last played him in 1967. I don't remember your career, it's like 5,700 yards. That's how futile it is, and that's why right? We are. Yeah, it's
Where's Willie going on that list?
Willie is not in the top 10. It's staggering. Mike Ditka's name still is in the top 5. Walter Payton still is. The only player who made it into the 21st century was Alshon Jeffrey. Brandon Marshall was only here for 3 years, and he had a terrific first 2 years, but fell out of favor. But yeah, we are dying to see some of these records get broken, and we were hoping we'd be well en route to that this year, but so far it hasn't happened. What would you say to a Bears fan for encouragement, or can you give them any, given the situation?
Yeah. I think right now the problem that they have is they have 3 or 4 guys who think they're number one. And they're number one receivers. And that's a problem. I think, the last 12 years of my career with the Raiders, it was obvious who the number one receiver was and who was trying to get, who they were trying to get the ball. Everybody else, you were playing your role, but if it was 3rd and 5, Tim was going to get the ball. You know what I mean? In special situations, I was going to get the ball. I don't think the Bears have that right now. I think with Allen, with Moore, with the other kids you mentioned, I think they're all thinking, even Komet, they're all thinking, hey, I should be your 3rd down guy. And I think they have to really get that worked out. And it may not happen until the offseason. It may end up meaning that 1 or 2 of these guys have to go because you can get better by subtraction also. And so I think they're going to have to really look at that because I saw a couple of plays where I think it was Moore. He got up and he was pounding his chest like, get me the ball more. You know what I mean? And if I'm Allen, if I'm Komet, I'm looking over like, hey, bro, hold on. I need some of these balls, So I think they have that issue right now. But look, it's a good problem to have. I think they just got to figure out exactly how to work it out.
How do you facilitate it this week? You got a divisional game, and it's going to be tough sledding anyway at 4-6, and you've already lost 1 in your division to Green Bay. They've got Minnesota this week. How do you rectify that this week?
Yeah, look, I think, you look at who's a hot hand right now, who's got it going. I love what they did with Moore getting him some balls where he can run after the catch. He's excellent at that. I think, they need to do more of that. Let him do that. Get the ball to Allen on 3rd downs. You know what I mean? Get the ball down the field I can't say the kid's name. What's his name?
Adunze.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, get him down the field. You know what I mean? So there are special plays you can have for everybody, but at the same time, you got to have a number one receiver that everybody in the stadium knows. On 3rd and 5, they're going to this guy, and you still get it done.
Tim, thank you so much for the time. Really enjoyed catching up. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Tim Brown, the legendary Raider, a 2015 Hall of Fame enshrinee in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. I want to thank Randy Merkin, who gets me all of these A-list guests for the Danny Mac podcast. My executive producer is Sam Michael. Adam Delavitt runs the show for Bet Rivers. Troy Mocker and Alex Pastor take care of all of our social media. Be back after the ball game Sunday. I'm Dan McNeil. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.